Hi, my name is Deidre Elrod, and today I'm going to talk about how to improve the lives of children. We must make education a priority. Oklahoma is ranked 36th nationally in child well-being rankings and ranked 39th in education. 57% of young children in Oklahoma are not in school. 67% of fourth graders are not proficient in reading. A whopping 77% of eighth graders are not proficient in math, and 18% of high school students are not graduating on time. Despite the lack of funding and continued exodus of Oklahoma teachers, Oklahoma saw one of its greatest improvements in ranking in the domain of education. In 2016, Oklahoma ranked 42nd but rose to 39th in 2017. Although Oklahoma's overall ranking in education improved by 3 spots, the only improvement was in high school students not graduating on time, which was 2012-13 school year and has rose to 18% for the 2014-15 school year. In all other education indicators, Oklahoma saw no improvement. Education is the foundation for the rest of our lives. Part of the American dream is the expectation that any child in the United States will receive the same education and have the same opportunities to fulfill their potential as their peers. Education can create opportunities that level the playing field and break down barriers. Oklahoma rose from a ranking of 42 in education in 2013 to 39 overall in 2015. This increase in ranking is largely due to improvements in reading and math proficiency. However, for a state that prides itself on its work ethic and devotion to education, we can do better. Without a good educational foundation, our state will not have the workforce that is attractive to industry and business. Oklahoma's educational system is for many children their first contact with health, whether they're through school lunch programs, health education, or special education services. Good schools help tie communities together, reduce poverty, and decrease crime. However, budget cuts and appropriation of funds to other sources are hindering the potential impact of improving education in Oklahoma. We must educate ourselves, those around us, and our legislator, not only about the realities of the situation, but also possible creative solutions to give new life to our state. Education can create opportunities that level the playing field and break down barriers that can lead to long, healthy lives for generations to Oklahomans. Access to preschool and pre-K programs prepare children for academic success in the future. Historically, Oklahoma has been a national leader in early childhood education by expanding access to pre-K programs statewide. Budget cuts to funding and teacher salaries have put this legacy in danger. As a mother to a 4-year-old, this subject's very special to me. In comparison, Connecticut's rate of young children not in school is 36%, which puts them in number 1 in the United States. What differences are there in Connecticut's educational system that Oklahoma could learn from? One of the first states to establish an Office of Early Childhood its goal is to coordinate and improve the various early childhood programs and components in the state to create a cohesive, high-quality early childhood system. Offers the Smart Start program, which provides matching funds for public school districts to open preschool programs within the school system. How can we improve? Preschool enrollment at 15% is mostly found in Head Start programs. Funding for these programs is a part of the Oklahoma Early Childhood Program. Since its inception, the Oklahoma Early Childhood Program has expanded 3-year-old enrollment from 720 in 2006 to 2,605 in 2015. Private funds are matched by the Oklahoma Early Childhood Program to provide preschool services. If this program were expanded, enrollment of preschool students would rise accordingly. The Oklahoma Early Childhood Program could also be expanded to offer matching funds to school districts as the Smart Start program in Connecticut does. Pre-K enrollment is better than in many states due to Oklahoma's decision to fund pre-K as a grade-level program. However, attendance is not mandatory. By the time students enter the 4th grade, reading is no longer its own subject, but an important tool in learning other subjects. Any losses here can predict dropout rates and lower college attendance. The Kids Count Data Center measures this indicator using the National Assessment of Educational Progress and identifies 67% of students entering the 4th grade as having insufficient reading skills. However, only 5% of Oklahoma students take the National Assessment of Educational process. In Oklahoma, the majority of students take the state-administered STAR test, which is the assessment to use to identify reading deficiencies. If a student receives an unsatisfactory score, They are subject to retention, repeating the third grade unless granted one of 6 possible exemptions. Though some revealing gaps in this, there are some revealing gaps in this data. Although 66% of all students are eligible for free or reduced school lunches, they accounted for 87% of those scoring unsatisfactory. Racial groups perform disproportionately. All racial groups, except white students, had a higher percentage scoring unsatisfactory than their representation. For example, Black or African American students represent 9% of the total student population, but 18% of unsatisfactory scores. White students represent 50% of the student population, but only 32% of unsatisfactory scores. English language learners, ELL, and students on Individualized Education Program, IEP, also perform disproportionately. ELL students represent 12% of the student population, but 25% of unsatisfactory scores. Students on IEPs represent 17% of the student population, but 50%, half of all unsatisfactory scores. Black students disproportionately experience out-of-school suspension. Black students are out-of-school suspensions at 3 times the rate of their white peers. Massachusetts rates of students entering the 4th grade not proficient in reading is 50%, which puts them at number 1 in the United States. What differences are there in Massachusetts' educational systems that Oklahoma could learn from? Made changing their state school funding system a priority, investing more per student in low-income areas. This paid off as students in those low-income areas were able to close the achievement gap due to better school services than their local tax base would be able to afford. Developed a statewide annual teacher evaluation process that made teacher certification more difficult. How can we improve education in Oklahoma? According to OK Coalition, the amount spent on public education in Oklahoma has grown but isn't keeping pace with enrollment. Common education compromises a shrinking share of the state's budget, and districts are increasingly reliant on local revenue sources. On a per-student basis, Oklahoma's surrounding states are investing hundreds of millions of dollars more in education. Common education funding makes up a smaller share of the state's budget than it did in 2008. School districts are relying more on local funding. Oklahoma's neighboring states invest substantially more in common education on a per-student basis. Oklahoma would have to invest nearly $1.3 billion more annually to reach the regional average per student spending. Oklahoma's average teacher salary, which includes health benefits and the district's retirement contribution, is not regionally competitive. Oklahoma's teacher annual salary is an average of $44,549, where neighboring states' Texas average salary is $49,690. Oklahoma schools are coping with a significant teacher shortage, which has led to increased class sizes and the elimination of some courses. According to the Oklahoma Study of Education, between 2010 and 2015, more Oklahoma educators left the profession than joined it. Oklahoma started the school year 1,000 teachers short despite eliminating 600 teacher positions from the prior year. The State Board of Education has issued more than 1,000 emergency teaching certificates this year. About one-third of school leaders said the schools will likely offer fewer courses this year. Special education, elementary, high school students, high school math, and middle school math are the most difficult teaching positions to fill. 11 out of every Oklahoma teachers leave the state or the profession every year. 17% of new teachers in Oklahoma leave the state or the profession after their first year. 10% of Oklahoma teachers made a decade of experience leave the state or profession every year. Oklahoma is replacing experienced teachers who leave with teachers who are far less experienced. Between 2005 and 6 and 2013 and 14, Oklahoma had a 24% decline in the number of students completing teacher preparation programs. Research has projected that it will further decline 22% between 2013-14 and 2018-19. Student enrollment is projected to continue increasing. Oklahoma is not producing enough foreign language, math, or science teachers to replace those who are leaving. The projected demand for teachers in Oklahoma will continue to outpace the supply. Oklahoma has significant competition from the private sector and from surrounding states. A high percentage of out-of-state students, 76%, who completed teacher preparation programs in Oklahoma in recent years never worked in Oklahoma public schools. Oklahoma's special education student-to-teacher ratio is almost 23 to 1. The fiscal year 2019 budget appropriates $2.9 billion to common education, a $480 million increase over the current school year common education budget. The 19% increase will fund the state's largest ever teacher pay raise. Teachers will receive an average $6,100 raise. Some of the state's most experienced teachers will receive an $8,800 raise. The increase raises teachers' pay above the regional average and reduces the education investment gap. But according to a survey from the Oklahoma State Boards Association, the state's largest ever teacher pay raise has boosted morale in school districts across the state, but has had little immediate effect on Oklahoma's severe teacher shortage. Oklahoma schools are starting another year with nearly 500 teacher vacancies, despite a heavy reliance on emergency certified teachers and adjunct instructors who teach on a part-time basis. More than half of superintendents who completed this year's survey said teacher hiring is worse this year compared to last year. A common concern among schools that there is an over-reliance on inexperienced teachers is compromising student achievement. The lack of additional resources for teacher training and the burden on veteran teachers and building administrators trying to assist teachers new to the profession. Contact your legislator and be an advocate for our children. We must be an advocate for adequate funding for our schools to ensure that we have more outstanding educators, schools, and students.